Hey, church. I hope you don't mind me reading this. We just want to make sure we say everything that's on our heart. And last week we were having a connect group, and we were all reeling from the filmed murder that we saw of George Floyd. And the reaction of one of our black friends struck me when he said, "I'm not surprised." And this was in stark contrast to the outrage that had been erupting everywhere, as if much of the world is only now just admitting that racism is real, when in fact this murder is part of a 400-year narrative. He had seen it before and he expects to see it again. His is a deep chronic pain that he's been dealing with for his entire life. And I liken it to a wound that our society has inflicted and then ignored. And after the shock went through us all, only now are we being forced to really examine it. Upon opening it up, all of this pain, resentment, fear, sadness, and rage has come pouring out like an infection. And the more I look, pray, and deeply consider what has been happening all this time, I'm not surprised either. It all needs to come out. And as it does, please, let's not change the subject. We have to look at the wound caused by racism and abuse, and each of us needs to ask, what part have I played in this? Some have actively wounded, and others have just stood by as passive accomplices or ignored the issue altogether. All I know is that I want to put a stop to it, and if possible, I want to be a healer. We're barely even learning what that means, but I know that it starts by hearing and acknowledging the problem of systemic racism. The same friend said that there are only racists and anti-racists. There are no in-between stances. There's no lukewarm in this matter. And so, as individuals, as members of our church, as parents, as professionals, we have to take captive every thought and every action and weigh it on this scale. Are we making things better?
Mine's probably not so eloquent, but I've just been praying about what to say, and the word enough has come up in my mind a lot. Two parts of it, not enough and enough is enough. The enemy's original lie is that we are not enough. And I think there's just this little bit of truth in every lie that makes us believe it. And the reason I don't feel like I'm enough is because I'm not enough. I'm not who I want to be. I want to be someone who heals, someone who protects, someone who learns, someone who builds other people up, someone who grows, someone who empowers, and someone who listens. I want to be like Jesus, who stood in the gap for his friends and literally laid his life down. God's promise is that he hears us and then he answers us. And I think I've been struck. I did a little bit of studying over this, and 4 times that I found, I'm sure it's a lot more, I found places in the Psalms where God said he answers us. Psalm 118, he says, "I will give you thanks, for you answered me. You have become my salvation." Psalm 81, "In your distress you called to me, and I rescued you, and I answered you out of a thundercloud." Psalm 120, "I called on the Lord in my distress, and he answered me." Psalm 118:5, "In my anguish I cried to the Lord, and he answered me by setting me free." I think enough is my cry, and I'm just wanting to let our friends in our church, especially our black friends and brothers and sisters, know that we're going to stand and cry with you. We're going to stand up with you and make it better.